Malaysia, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chair. And good morning, friends. I actually had a 9:35 a.m. flight to Cusco this morning on my way to Machu Picchu. Instead, I found myself, I suppose, in Cusco, this room. Now my flight is gone, and I Googled to find that if I were to take a bus ride, it will take me 26 hours. Now, just one or two preliminary points. The first is, of course, that if I correlate the visual and the sound, what I see and the clapping and who is clapping, we realize that we are in a differentiated world. That is the reality. We all started off from different starting points. Many of you colonized us, so we started from a completely different point. And that is why one of the manifestations of this differentiation is in the convention itself. Why there must be a differentiated treatment between Annex I and non-Annex I countries. And this you must appreciate, because collectively in the convention, this is what we concluded. Now, we had a few key points that we communicated time and again through the meetings, through the negotiations, through you, the co-chair, to the rest of the world. But these red lines, unfortunately, were not addressed in the text. And for those who so gratuitously describe others who do not agree with them as people who are psychoanalyzed as having an ego and people who would bicker needlessly, let me tell you this. Let me point out for those of you who so flippantly categorize, psychoanalyze others, the key points, our red points, which we have communicated, not only in the course of the negotiations, but as well to the presidency. Now, this includes, and it's a bit laborious, but I think it's necessary. Number one, this text is operating under the principles of the Convention, especially equity and common but differentiated responsibility. Number two, differentiation between Annex I and non-Annex I in INDCs is recognized and operationalized. Number three, there should be no introduction of new terms such as other parties in a position to do so, or by a deft word maneuver, instead of other parties in a position to do so, other parties willing to do so under the new text, which undermines the differentiation and which are not terms or concepts. These are terms and concepts that are completely alien to the Convention. Four, the scope of the INDCs includes all the elements: mitigation, adaptation, loss and damage, finance, technology, capacity building, transparency. It should not be mitigation-centric. In particular, there has to be parallel information on financial contributions, which is required to support the developing countries' contributions on mitigations and other climate actions. Number five, the contents of the decision will not prejudge the terms and contents of the 2015 agreement. Number six, there should not be activities on assessment of the INDCs in 2015 ex-ante assessment, and a process of assessment can be considered after 2015 on terms to be agreed to. And finally, in the process to build the negotiating text for the 2015 agreement, the submissions of parties are crucial components that will be drawn upon. Now, we had these red lines, and then the text was presented to us. And we provided, or tried to provide, a lot of ideas. We provided textual language. Now, in almost every option we indicated our preference, option 1, but then we indicated very clearly a willingness to even work on option 2 and even option 3, but with modifications, with some of our ideas infused into option 2, option 3. Now, how more compromising can you get? What else do you want us to do? Go on bended knees? Completely accede to your text? We provided textual language, but we noted that our textual language was not recorded by anyone. Normally in a process, and I've been involved in these kinds of processes for well nigh a decade in other fora, albeit. And you know, when you present a text and that language is going to be taken seriously, we are asked, can you put it in writing? I offered that it be put in, I could present it in writing. This offer was not taken up. From the visual, I could see that there was nothing being recorded. And therefore, it is not surprising that we are thoroughly disappointed that our points are not taken up on the new text. It's not a question of not compromising. Let me emphasize this again. We offered textual language in respect of all 3 options, in respect of all the key matters. We bent, and we bend. We can be flexible, but we cannot bend flexibility to a breaking point, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. Now, let me give you some specific examples of our disappointment with regard to the text. The CBDR and other principles of the Convention are not adequately recognized and especially not operationalized. And we tried to put this in, we would have gladly, and we have present language that we can put into option 2 and 3 to reflect this. And it could be accepted, it could be rejected, but it cannot be dismissed out of hand. That is our complaint. That is our fundamental complaint. Number 2, there is no recognition of CBDR or differentiation relating to INDCs and information to be submitted on INDCs. Number 3, terms such as other countries willing to do so are introduced. Number 4, the finance issue is inadequately treated in the text, with no requirement for developed countries to provide information on their finance contributions. Number 5, the text is mitigation-centric. Number 6, the draft decision is prejudging the core elements of the Paris Agreement. This is because of the above factors, including the absence of differentiation, the establishment of a mandatory system of mitigation in the text, and the lack of finance commitment in the text. Number 7, there are activities on assessment in 2015, such as workshop and secretariat paper. Number 8, Para 4 elevates the co-chair's elements non-paper to be the basis of continuing the work on elements, even though it has no legal status and there has been little discussion on it, while the views and submissions of parties are not mentioned. But we are prepared to make adjustments in this regard. We have several other points, including on the pre-2020 work stream. Mr. Chair, our conclusion then is that it appears that the ADP process in Lima has been exhausted. But, as the speakers before me said, it requires some surgery, and we would like to engage in a process to continue to try to arrive at a happy outcome, but under the scalpel, if you like, of the chief surgeon, the presidency itself. So we hope then our key points can be included in any future text that could be so deftly treated by the chief surgeon, the presidency. And we are willing, as we have always been, to provide our ideas and language which we have ready. We would like to point out that only a genuinely member-driven process can result in a consensus. We have been strongly requesting the co-chairs to allow and arrange a genuinely member-driven process with views and submissions of members placed on the screen and in compiled text and with party-to-party negotiations. Unfortunately, this open and participatory process did start, and we are so grateful for that, but it only began in the middle of the first week in Lima. We were satisfied with this process, as it enabled parties to see the common and different views and to negotiate. But time has defeated us in a sense. In our view, it is not this process that is wrong, but that this process was not given its proper chance until it was too late. We propose that the genuine member-driven process be followed when the ADP resumes. The process by which co-chairs provide one draft after another, which does not satisfactorily reflect the various views of parties, is unlikely to produce an outcome that everyone can own and that therefore succeeds. We blame no one, co-chairs. Everyone has tried their best, but these are very serious concerns. They have to be addressed. When we talk about beneficial to the world and all this, you must recognize there is a world out there which is different from your world. Tuvalu expressed it. There is a poor world. There is a disenfranchised world. Recognize that. And let's proceed under the presidency in a spirit of willingness to recognize the reality that faces us all. Mr. Co-Chair, I thank you very much.